Ladies, I need you to settle in for a moment because what I'm about to share with you is going to hit hard, but it's also going to set you free. I want you to hear this and feel it in your heart. Too many of us have been taught that love is about giving until it hurts, bending until we break, and sacrificing our own peace for someone who may never truly see our value. Too many of us have been in relationships where the silence, the detachment, the emotional distance leaves us questioning ourselves, where we wonder, am I enough? Did I do something wrong? Why isn't he showing up? And ladies, I'm here to tell you, none of that pain is a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of dynamics that are out of balance. And it's your moment to take back your power. Now listen, the truth is, when a woman steps back, not to punish, not to manipulate, but to prioritize herself, everything changes. Her energy shifts. Her presence becomes magnetic. Her worth becomes undeniable. And the very thing that hurt her, the silence, the detachment, starts to reveal a deeper truth: who is really invested, who truly cares, and who deserves a place in her life. Because here's the reality: no one can give you what you won't demand for yourself. No one can respect boundaries you haven't set. No one can honor your heart if you haven't learned to honor it first. Today, I'm going to talk to you about why stepping back isn't weakness, it's power. Why choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. Why healing isn't optional, it's what makes you unforgettable. We're going to break down the real reasons that silence, space, and self-respect shift the energy in a relationship. And by the time we're done, you will see that the key to being desired, valued, and respected isn't in chasing, it's in choosing better for yourself. Ladies, your journey starts here. Your power starts here. And your transformation starts the moment you decide to own it. His silence hurt you, but your silence heals you. Ladies, let's slow down for a moment, because this one right here, this is the point that cuts the deepest. This is the point most women feel in their chest before I even finish the sentence, because you know exactly what I'm talking about. That silence he gave you, whether it came out of nowhere or crept in little by little, wasn't just quiet. It was cold. It was confusing. It was the kind of quiet that makes you stare at your phone like it's supposed to explain something. The kind of quiet where you start replaying every conversation, wondering if you said too much, cared too much, asked for too much, hoped for too much. His silence wasn't just him not texting. It was a shift, a weight, a message you could feel even though no words were spoken. And that silence, it stings because it makes you feel like you're the only one trying. It feels like abandonment without anyone saying goodbye. It feels like you've been emotionally left standing in a room where the lights got turned off. It feels personal even when you know deep down it might not be about you. It's the not knowing that tears at you, the wondering, the waiting, the hoping that maybe today he'll show up differently. And when he doesn't, that's when it hits your confidence, your trust, your sense of worth. You start bending over backward trying to decode a silence that isn't yours to fix. But here's what shifts everything: realizing that his silence is his choice, but your silence is your power. See, when a woman gets quiet, it's not the same. You don't go silent because you don't care. You go silent because you need to care about yourself again. You don't step back because you want to hurt anybody. You step back because you're finally done hurting yourself. Your silence isn't a reaction. It's a recalibration. It's you turning the volume back up on your own thoughts, your own needs, your own voice. When you stop texting paragraphs trying to explain what you deserve. When you stop checking your phone, hoping for something that should have been consistent in the first place. When you stop filling in the gaps he created with excuses. Your silence starts doing what it never could. It heals you. Because in the stillness, you start hearing your truth again. You realize how much energy you were pouring into someone else's inconsistencies. You start noticing that you were giving, and accepting crumbs because you didn't want to lose the little bit he offered. But when you step back, when you get quiet, that's when clarity walks in. That's when you can actually feel how tired your heart has been. And that's when you remember that peace isn't something you earn, it's something you choose. And here's something else, something real. When a woman who normally shows up with love, warmth, patience, understanding, suddenly goes quiet, it hits different. Not because you're trying to trigger him, not because you're playing a game, but because the absence of your consistency exposes the value of it. Your silence is a mirror he has to look into. Some men don't realize how much your presence meant until your presence is no longer automatic. Some don't realize how easy you made communication until they have to reach for it. Some don't recognize your emotional effort until they feel the space where your effort used to be. But hear me clearly, whether he notices or not is not the point. The point is you notice yourself again. You notice your strength. You notice your needs. You notice that you deserve reciprocity, not empty space that feels like guessing. You deserve someone who speaks with clarity, not someone who leaves you in mental limbo. And the moment you choose silence for your own healing, you step back into your worth. Your silence becomes your boundary. Your silence becomes your reset. Your silence becomes the moment you choose inner peace over outer approval. Because when his silence hurts you, it pulls you down. But when your silence heals you, it lifts you back up. It gives you your power back. It puts your heart back in your own hands. It reminds you that you don't need to chase clarity. You can create it by stepping away from confusion. Ladies, remember this. You're not meant to live in emotional noise that you didn't create, and you're not meant to shrink yourself to fit someone else's silence. You deserve connection that speaks, not silence that wounds. And when you finally give yourself the quiet you need, that's when your healing begins. You don't ignore, you prioritize yourself. Ladies, listen closely because this one right here gets twisted, misunderstood, and misused all the time. People love to say, oh, she's ignoring him, like you suddenly woke up one day and decided to play some childish game. But you and I both know that's not what happened. You're not ignoring anybody. You're not trying to punish anybody. You're not sitting in a corner plotting how to make someone miss you. What you're really doing, what you're finally doing is prioritizing yourself. And that is a whole different energy, a whole different mindset, a whole different level of self-respect. See, there's a moment every woman reaches where she gets tired of holding her breath in a relationship, tired of waiting on someone else to take her seriously, tired of feeling like she's giving 80% while getting barely 20% back. There's a moment when you step back, not out of anger, but out of clarity. Not because you want to make a point, but because you finally see the point. And the point is this: you can't keep pouring into someone who's leaking. You can't keep showing up for someone who barely shows up for you. You can't keep sacrificing your peace for someone who doesn't even notice the weight you're carrying. So no, you're not ignoring him. You're not acting cold. You're not being petty. You're doing what you should have done a long time ago. You're choosing yourself. You're choosing your sanity. You're choosing your emotional stability. You're choosing to stop explaining what you deserve and start expecting it. When you decide to stop chasing someone's attention, you're not playing hard to get. You're acknowledging that your value doesn't lie in how hard you try. And when you make that shift, it changes the whole atmosphere. Because here's the truth. You used to make yourself way too available. You used to answer messages the second they came in, even when you weren't okay. You used to show up with excitement, even when you weren't being met with effort. You used to carry the emotional weight of the relationship on your own shoulders, thinking if you just did a little more, gave a little more, held on a little longer, maybe things would get better. But that kind of loyalty is exhausting when it's not matched. That kind of effort becomes self-abandonment when you give it to someone who isn't ready to meet you where you are. So when you finally step back, when you finally redirect your energy into yourself, when you start caring about your goals, your peace, your growth, your joy, people feel that shift. They feel the absence of your overgiving. They feel the difference between a woman who's chasing validation and a woman who is validating herself. And trust me, there is something powerful, magnetic, unshakable about a woman who takes her identity, bond back, and puts it where it belongs, on her own life. That's when you start waking up and thinking about your future instead of his mood. That's when you start prioritizing your friendships, your hobbies, your dreams, your mental health. That's when you start realizing the world is bigger than waiting on someone to decide whether or not they're ready for you. You stop operating as if you're an option, and you start living like you are your own priority. And here's the wild part. When you make this shift, it often surprises him, because he was used to the version of you who would overextend, overthink, and overcompromise. He was used to you being available even when he wasn't. He was used to your energy being directed at him, even when he didn't earn it. So when you pull your energy back to yourself, when you stop texting first, when you stop putting him at the center of your world, it disrupts the pattern. It forces him to see that the dynamic wasn't balanced. It was convenient. But again, that's not the point. The point isn't how he reacts. It's how you grow. The point is that you stop abandoning yourself in the name of love. You stop shrinking to keep someone else comfortable. You stop dimming your light, hoping someone will finally notice your shine. You stop seeking validation in places that have never fed your soul. Choosing yourself is not selfish. It is not rude. It is not unkind. Choosing yourself is necessary. It is healing. It is maturity. It is you reclaiming the pieces of yourself you gave away too freely. So no, don't ever let anyone tell you you're ignoring him, because what you're really doing is valuing yourself in a way that doesn't require anyone else's permission. Men notice what they start losing access to. Ladies, let me tell you something that hits hard, but it's the kind of truth that changes everything. Most of the time, people, especially don't realize what they have until it's no longer in front of them. That's just how life works. It's not mean. It's not personal. It's reality. And when it comes to relationships, this is where your power quietly shifts without you even having to raise your voice. You see, when you step back, when you stop being the constant, when you stop pouring every ounce of energy into someone who isn't matching it, they begin to notice. And I'm not just talking about noticing in a surface way. I'm talking about that gut level weight. She's not here like she used to be kind of noticing. Think about it for a second. How many times have you been in a place where you showed up? You were consistent. You were present. You were patient. You laughed at his jokes when he wasn't funny. You listened to his rants when you had your own stress. You supported his dreams even when yours were being ignored. You offered your time, your energy, your care, and your attention. And most days it was taken for granted. And then one day you stopped. You stopped showing up with that same intensity. You didn't answer right away. You didn't put him first. You didn't fill the gaps he left behind. You started prioritizing yourself. And do you know what happens next? Suddenly, the dynamic changes. Suddenly, he starts to feel the absence of the woman he thought would always be there. Suddenly, he starts to notice that the warmth, the patience, the emotional labor, the love he received effortlessly, it's not available on demand anymore. And that's when reality hits him. That's when he starts thinking, I didn't realize how good she was until she stepped back. I didn't see the value until it wasn't there. Ladies, let me be clear. This isn't about trying to manipulate someone. This isn't about pulling away to play a game. This is about reclaiming your energy, your boundaries, and your peace. It's about topping the automatic giving that has nothing to do with your happiness and everything to do with keeping someone else comfortable. The moment you do that, your absence speaks louder than any argument, any speech, any explanation could ever. Your silence becomes a mirror. It reflects back to him the dedication, the love, and the patience he was taking for granted. It shows him what he had access to all along but didn't appreciate. I want you to picture this. He's used to texting you every day, getting your jokes, seeing your smile, feeling your support. He's used to your energy being directed at him as though it's a given. And now You've started prioritizing yourself. You're spending time on your growth. You're setting boundaries. You're investing in your friends, your hobbies, your mental health. And guess what? That absence isn't empty. It's powerful. It makes him reflect on what it feels like not to have your attention, your love, your care. It's the first time he realizes that some things are not unlimited and not replaceable. And here's the deeper lesson in all of this. It's not about making him chase you. It's about making him understand the value of what he had without taking it away from yourself. It's about reminding yourself that your worth isn't tied to someone noticing you immediately. Your worth is inherent. But when he starts noticing the space you leave, that's when reality finally aligns with respect. That's when patterns shift. That's when a man who may have been blind to your value suddenly sees it clearly. Ladies, the thing about humans is that we often only recognize treasure when it's rare. You've been abundant with your care, your patience, your consistency, and some people get used to abundance. But when you pull some of that back to protect yourself, to honor yourself, and to heal yourself, it creates a space where clarity grows. And that clarity doesn't just affect him, it affects you. It reminds you of your power. It reminds you of your standards. It reminds you that you're not here to settle for being overlooked. And let me tell you, the irony is beautiful. Men may notice what they start losing access to, but the bigger victory is that you notice what you were giving away unnecessarily and you choose differently. You start seeing that your attention, your love, your energy is valuable, that your heart deserves reciprocity, that your presence should never be taken for granted. And when you step into that reality fully, you become unstoppable. You don't shrink. You don't chase. You simply exist in your worth, and that alone shifts everything around you. So remember this, the moment you start prioritizing yourself, the moment you take back what's rightfully yours, your energy, your love, your attention, people around you start to notice. And sometimes that noticing is the wake-up call they needed. But the true power, the real magic, is not in their recognition. It's in your reclamation of yourself. Because when you prioritize yourself, you don't just change how he sees you, you change how you see yourself. And that, ladies, is unstoppable. Stepping back reveals who's really invested. Ladies, let me tell you something that's both painful and liberating at the same time. One of the hardest lessons in love and in life is realizing that not everyone who is around you is truly invested. Not everyone who says, I care, actually puts in the effort. And sometimes you can't see it when you're in the middle of giving all of yourself, pouring your energy, your love, your time, your heart into someone who hasn't yet proven they're on the same page. But here's the thing. Stepping back is the ultimate test. It's the clearest mirror. It's the most honest revelation. And it's the most powerful act of self-respect you can take. You see, when you're always available, always responsive, always trying, it's easy for someone to take that for granted. They get comfortable. They stop showing up the way they used to. They stop putting effort into communicating, into connecting, into nurturing the relationship. And while that behavior might hurt you, it also clouds your vision. You don't see who is truly there for you and who is just there because it's easy. You don't see who values your presence and who treats it like it's optional. But when you step back, when you pull your energy away, when you stop being the automatic source of attention, love, and care, suddenly things change. The people who are really invested, the ones who genuinely value you, step forward. They show up, they reach out, they make the effort to communicate, to reassure, to prioritize your feelings and your presence. They prove without words that you matter to them. And the beauty of it, you no longer have to beg, plead, or overextend to see it. Their actions become undeniable evidence. Think about it like this, a garden. You've been watering it every single day, giving sunlight, care, attention, and yet some plants never bloom. They never grow. They just take what you give without showing any signs of life. But when you step back, when you stop overwatering and stop forcing growth, the plants that were meant to thrive start showing it. They flourish, they blossom, they reach toward the sun. That's exactly what happens when you step back in relationships. You stop forcing investment, and suddenly the people who are truly meant to be there reveal themselves in their effort, their attention, their commitment. And let me make this very clear. This isn't about making someone prove themselves out of fear or guilt. It's about giving space to see their true priorities. It's about creating boundaries that allow you to observe whether someone is willing to show up when they're not being catered to, when you're not doing all the heavy lifting. It's about watching their investment rise or fall in the absence of your constant presence. The people who are not invested, they fade. They go quiet. They get comfortable with your absence in ways that show you exactly where you stand. And that, painful as it is actually a blessing. Because instead of continuing to pour into someone who won't match you, you finally get clarity. You finally see who is worth your time, who is worth your patience, and who is worth the love you give. Stepping back isn't just a test for them, it's a gift for you. It's the moment where you realize that you don't need to settle for someone who treats your presence like optional, because you finally see the people who are willing to show up for you consistently, wholeheartedly, without hesitation. And here's the most empowering part. This process changes how you value yourself. It shows you that your attention and love are not commodities to be used carelessly. It teaches you that being available should be a choice, not an obligation, and that your energy is sacred. When you step back and observe who truly invests in you, you're not just learning about them, you're learning about your own worth. You're learning what you deserve, and you're learning that it's okay to only give your heart to those who give theirs in return. Stepping back forces a truth that many women avoid because it can be uncomfortable. Not everyone is as invested as you are. Some people love the idea of you, the image of you, or the convenience of your presence, but they're not willing to show it through consistent effort. And that's okay, because when you step back, the ones who genuinely care, the ones who genuinely value you, rise to the occasion. And when they do, you finally see who's really in it for the right reasons, who's willing to meet you where you are, and who respects your heart enough to treat it with the care it deserves. Ladies, remember this. Stepping back isn't withdrawal. It's a revelation. It's clarity. It's empowerment. It separates those who are truly invested from those who are merely present. And once you see who is really willing to show up, you can make decisions from a place of power, not desperation. You can love fully without compromising yourself. You can give your energy wisely. And that right there is the kind of self-respect that changes everything. The real power isn't in making him chase. IT's in choosing better for yourself. Ladies, let me tell you something that I need you to hear with every fiber of your being. There is a misconception out there that the power in a relationship is about making him chase you. That somehow if you pull away, act distant, or play games, you will finally have control. But I'm here to tell you, real power doesn't come from manipulation. Real power doesn't come from testing him or seeing if he notices. Real power comes from choosing better for yourself, from deciding that your life, your peace, and your worth are non-negotiable. Think about it. How many times have you caught yourself in the trap of trying to get his attention, trying to get him to care, trying to get him to act like he sees your value? You give, you text, you show up, you overextend, and yet he still remains inconsistent. And in that inconsistency, you start questioning yourself. You start doubting your own worth. You start thinking maybe the problem is you. Maybe the problem is your love. Maybe the problem is the way you care. And so you try harder. You chase harder. You adjust yourself, thinking that if you just push a little more, he'll finally notice. But let me tell you something, ladies. If you have to chase some, E1 to feel valued, that is not love. That is not respect. That is not partnership. That is imbalance. The real power shows up the moment you stop chasing. The real power shows up the moment you decide that your energy, your attention, your heart is worth more than crumbs and uncertainty. You don't step back to test him. You step back to protect yourself. You step back to honor your own standards. You step back to reclaim the dignity and respect that you've been giving away to someone who hasn't earned it. When you do this, everything changes because suddenly you're no longer defining your worth by his actions or inactions. You're defining it by your own values, your own choices, your own self-respect. And here's the thing, choosing better for yourself doesn't mean you stop loving. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you become cold or distant out of bitterness. Choosing better means you stop settling. It means you stop shrinking your heart, your voice, and your needs to fit someone else's comfort. It means you start expecting reciprocity, consistency, and respect. It means you start walking in a version of yourself that refuses to accept anything less than what you truly deserve. And that, ladies, is the kind of energy that cannot be ignored. That is the kind of presence that shifts dynamics without you even saying a word. Real power also comes with clarity. When you choose better for yourself, you can see clearly who deserves a place in your life and who does not. You can see who is willing to meet you halfway and who is taking advantage of your generosity. You can see who's investing in your happiness and who's only taking from it. And once you see that, the decision becomes simple. You don't have to fight for attention. You don't have to beg for affection. You don't have to lower your standards to keep someone close. Choosing better for yourself is about walking away from imbalance and stepping into alignment with your worth. Think about the energy shift that happens when you stop chasing and start choosing. The women who try to make him chase are often exhausted, anxious, frustrated, and constantly questioning themselves. But the women who choose better for themselves, they're grounded, they're confident, they're radiant, they're at peace. Their energy isn't attached to someone else's approval. It's attached to their own sense of value. And guess what happens when a woman moves from chasing to choosing? Suddenly, she becomes magnetic. Suddenly, people notice her standards, her confidence, her self-respect. Suddenly, the ones who truly belong in her life step forward, and the ones who don't, they fade without drama. And this, ladies, is the ultimate truth. You are never less for choosing yourself. You are never wrong for prioritizing your happiness. You are never unloving for expecting respect. Chasing someone to get them to notice you is temporary satisfaction. Choosing better for yourself is lasting transformation. It's how you build a life that doesn't depend on validation from anyone else. It's how you cultivate relationships that are healthy, reciprocal, and uplifting. So remember this. The power has never been in making him chase. The power has always been in you deciding that you deserve better, that you will not compromise your standards, and that you will live in alignment with your own worth. That is the energy that changes everything. That is the confidence that draws the right people to you. That is the love that is sustainable and transformative. Step into that power, ladies. Walk in your value. Choose better for yourself. And watch how your life shifts in ways you never imagined possible. Your healing ice what makes you unforgettable. Ladies, let me say this slowly so it sinks in. What makes why? Unforgettable is not how much attention you can command, how hard you can make someone chase you, or how much you can bend yourself to fit someone else's expectations. No. What makes you unforgettable is healing. It's the work you do on yourself after the heartbreak, the silence, the emotional exhaustion. It's the way you rebuild, the way you rise, and the way you finally say, I am not defined by anyone else's treatment of me. I define myself. And when you reach that point, something magical happens. Your presence, your energy, your aura changes in ways that are impossible to ignore. Think about it. When you've been hurt, when you've been dismissed, when you've been silenced or overlooked, you have two choices. You can carry the pain forward like a burden that weighs you down, or you can use that pain as a catalyst for transformation. Healing is not just about moving on. It's about reclaiming yourself. It's about rediscovering your voice, your joy, your confidence, your standards. And here's the truth. A woman who has done that work doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't over-explain. She doesn't operate from a place of fear or neediness. She operates from clarity, self-respect, and strength. Healing takes courage. It takes willingness to sit with your pain without running from it. It takes patience to forgive, not for anyone else, but for yourself. It takes commitment to set boundaries, to say no when you need to, and to protect your heart at all costs. And when you do that, when you truly commit to your own growth and emotional recovery, your energy shifts. You start to glow differently. You carry a confidence that can't be faked. You move through the world in a way that draws people to you, not because you're seeking validation, but because you are whole and complete on your own. And let me tell you something else. Healing also teaches you what you will no longer tolerate. It teaches you to recognize patterns, to identify red flags, and to trust your intuition. A woman who has healed knows her worth, knows her value, and refuses to settle for less than she deserves. She doesn't waste time on games, on drama, or on people who don't meet her where she is. That discernment is powerful. It's magnetic. It's unforgettable. Because when a woman shows up healed, she shows up with clarity, with boundaries, and with a presence that communicates, I love myself enough to only accept love that lifts me up. Ladies, think about the women who stick in your memory. It's rarely the ones who were desperate for attention or constantly seeking approval. It's the ones who had depth, strength, and self-respect. It's the ones who could stand tall even after heartbreak, who could smile through pain, who carried themselves with dignity even when they'd been mistreated. Those are the unforgettable women, not because they made others chase them, but because they chased their own growth and became a force that cannot be ignored. And here's the reality. When you are healed, when you've taken the time to rebuild yourself, the people who are meant to be in your life will rise to meet you at that level. They'll see your energy, your boundaries, your light, and they'll recognize that they are not dealing with someone who is broken or desperate. They're dealing with someone who is whole, someone who is grounded, someone whose love is intentional and not automatic. And that level of presence, that level of self-possession, it's unforgettable. It commands respect. It commands admiration. And it commands the kind of attention that aligns with your true value. Healing is not just about surviving. Healing is about thriving. Healing is about taking the pieces of your heart that were bruised, piecing them together with care, and realizing that the love you truly deserve starts with you. Every step you take toward your healing, every boundary you set, every ounce of energy you reclaim makes you more memorable, more magnetic, more powerful, more untouchable by anyone who doesn't deserve a place in your story. So ladies, never underestimate the power of your own recovery. Never think that the time you spend rebuilding yourself is wasted. Never believe that your healing doesn't matter, because the truth is this: your healing is what makes you unforgettable. It's what shapes your energy, your presence, your aura. It's what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. And when you embrace it fully, the world and the people in it cannot help but notice. Own your power, own your worth. Ladies, let me bring this all home for you, because I want you to feel it deep in your bones. Everything we've talked about today, the silence, the stepping back, the healing, it all comes down to one undeniable truth. Your power has always been inside you. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone. You don't need to beg for attention, approval, or love. You don't need to shrink to fit someone else's comfort. The moment you stop chasing what doesn't serve you, the moment you reclaim your energy, your peace, and your self-respect, That's when everything shifts. That's when clarity arises. That's when the people who truly belong in your life show up, and the ones who don't, they fade. Your worth is not determined by how someone else treats you. It's determined by how fiercely you protect yourself, how intentionally you show up for yourself, and how fully you refuse to accept anything less than you deserve. Ladies, understand this. Stepping back, ozing better, prioritizing yourself, and healing is not selfish. It is revolutionary. It is the kind of power that changes the energy around you. It is the kind of presence that commands respect, attention, and admiration without you saying a word. So I want you to leave this room or carry this energy into your day with one commitment: never settle. Never apologize for valuing yourself. Never diminish your light to make someone else comfortable. Step into the version of you that is healed, confident, and whole. Step into the version of you that knows her worth and will not negotiate it. Step into the version of you that is unforgettable, not because she made someone chase her, but because she chose herself over and over without hesitation. You are powerful. You are radiant. You are unstoppable. And from this moment forward, every choice you make, every boundary you set, every piece of love you give, it starts with you. Own it, live it, and watch your world transform.